There is something sitting in your kitchen right now that is giving you a false sense of security. It is not a broken lock. It is not a faulty alarm system. It is food, your own food. The very thing you assume will protect you is quietly, invisibly, setting you up to fail at the worst possible moment. And here is the terrifying part. You will not feel it happening. Most people believe that having a stock pantry means being prepared. That belief is one of the most dangerous illusions a person can hold going into a crisis. Because there is a colossal, monstrous difference between having food and having the right food. And that gap does not announce itself on day one. It does not wave a red flag on day 2 or 3. It waits. It waits until day 4, when your hands feel steady, but your judgment is already rotting from the inside out. When your brain is still processing information, but at a speed and accuracy that would terrify you if you could see it from the outside. Researchers who have studied real household collapses during extended emergencies have documented a pattern so consistent it should keep you awake tonight. The households that crumble first are almost never the ones with empty shelves. They are the ones with full shelves. Shelves packed with the wrong logic. Shelves that look like survival but function like slow poison. Physical and mental breakdown begins within 72 hours of a serious disruption. Not from starvation, not from thirst. From something quieter and far more insidious, nutritional mismatch. Your body begins consuming itself in ways you cannot see and will not recognize until the damage is already done. Here are 7 foods that stand between you and that collapse. Each one targets a specific, silent way the human body and mind begin to disintegrate under prolonged stress. Remove any single one, and the entire system fractures. And one of them, near the end of this list, protects something so critical that almost no emergency food guide even thinks to mention it. That blind spot is what transforms "I thought I was ready" into the most horrifying sentence a person can say after a disaster. Let us begin. Number 7. Honey. Most people think of honey as a condiment, a sweetener, something you drizzle over toast on a relaxed Sunday morning when the world is still intact. That framing will get you killed. Honey is one of the oldest survival substances on Earth, and it carries properties that become shockingly valuable the moment modern infrastructure disappears. The first is obvious. It is an extraordinarily dense caloric source. 2 tablespoons of honey deliver approximately 128 calories with 0 preparation, 0 water, and 0 heat required. But the terrifying reason honey belongs on this list goes deeper than calories. Under sustained crisis conditions, your immune system comes under siege. Poor sleep degrades it. Stress hormones suppress it. Irregular nutrition punches holes in it that pathogens walk straight through. Minor wounds that your body would ordinarily neutralize in 48 hours become dangerous. A scraped knee, a small cut from broken debris, an abrasion from physical labor. Any one of these becomes a vector for infection when your immune defenses are already compromised. Raw honey is one of the few shelf-stable foods with documented antimicrobial properties. It has been used as a wound dressing in medical contexts for centuries. Its low water content and natural hydrogen peroxide production create an environment where most bacteria cannot survive. In a situation where medical care is unavailable or severely delayed, that is not a trivial benefit. There is something else no one talks about in emergency food planning: morale, psychological endurance. After days of eating bland, functional survival food, rice, beans, plain oats, the psychological weight of monotony compounds the stress of everything else happening around you. Appetite suppression sets in. People stop eating not because there is no food, but because the thought of forcing down another mouthful of tasteless paste feels unbearable. Honey added to oats, dissolved into water, stirred into peanut butter, changes that equation. It provides a sensory anchor to normalcy that keeps food intake happening when instinct is pushing against it. And here is the single most haunting fact about honey as a storage item. Properly sealed, raw honey does not expire. Archaeologists have found honey in Egyptian tombs that was still edible after 3,000 years. You will never rotate it out because it went bad. The only thing that can ruin sealed honey is moisture. Keep it sealed, keep it dry, and it will outlast everything else on your shelf by generations. For storage, raw honey in glass jars, sealed tightly, stored away from direct light and temperature swings. Do not buy processed honey in thin plastic containers. The container matters as much as the contents. Number 6, salt. If you are not storing salt, what you have built is not a survival supply. It is a collection of ingredients that will slowly become inedible and eventually kill you through a mechanism most people never even consider. Salt is not a flavoring. Not at its core. Salt is a biological requirement. Sodium regulates fluid balance throughout every system in your body. It drives nerve impulse transmission. It controls muscle contractions, including the contractions of your heart. Your kidneys cannot function without it. Your cells cannot maintain proper pressure without it. Now consider what happens during a real emergency. Physical labor increases dramatically. Stress hormones drive sweat production even when you are not moving. Anxiety depletes sodium through perspiration. If you are in a hot environment, the loss accelerates into something dangerous within hours. The frightening truth is that sodium depletion does not feel like what most people expect. It does not feel like thirst. It feels like confusion, like mounting exhaustion that rest does not fix, like muscle cramps that intensify until movement becomes excruciating, like a headache that builds behind the eyes into something blinding. And in severe cases, it cascades into seizures, unconsciousness, and organ failure. None of your stored rice, beans, oats, or peanut butter contains enough sodium to compensate for what your body will lose under sustained crisis conditions. Without salt to season and preserve food, your carefully assembled supply begins to feel psychologically unbearable faster than you expect. Food that is calorie sufficient but completely flavorless triggers the same appetite suppression that leaves people starving with full shelves around them. Salt also preserves. In a situation where you have access to fresh food, but no refrigeration, from a garden, from foraging, from trade, salt is what extends that food's safe consumption window from hours to days or weeks. For storage, non-iodized pure salt in sealed waterproof containers. Iodized salt works fine but degrades faster. A minimum of 5 pounds per person for any serious preparation scenario. Salt is heavy, cheap, and takes up almost no space relative to what it prevents. Store it. Treat it as seriously as anything else on this list. If this is opening your eyes to gaps in your preparation, drop a like, leave a comment with the one item you thought you had covered, and subscribe so you catch what comes next. It takes 5 seconds and it might matter more than you think. Number 5, peanut butter. Here is a quiet horror that unfolds in almost every serious emergency situation, in every documented case study, across every demographic and income level. People eat 3 complete meals a day. They have calories, they have energy, and by day 3, they are making decisions that they would be ashamed of on a normal Tuesday. Not because they are panicking, not because the stress is overwhelming them, because one specific input has silently dropped out of their nutritional intake, and they have absolutely no idea it is gone. Dietary fat. Your brain is not a metaphor, it is a physical organ, and approximately 60% of its dry weight is composed of fat. That is the literal material from which your judgment, your emotional regulation, your ability to assess a situation clearly and respond to it accurately is constructed. The brain requires a steady supply of dietary fat to maintain the neurotransmitter systems and synaptic connections that make complex thought possible. When fat disappears from the diet, the brain does not switch off. It degrades, gradually, silently. Reaction time lengthens by margins you cannot feel, but that absolutely affect outcomes. Emotional responses to small frustrations become disproportionate. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for judgment, planning, and impulse control, begins operating at a fraction of its normal efficiency. And the most terrifying part, you do not experience it as cognitive decline. You experience it as managing just fine. The very part of your brain that would catch the problem is the part that is compromised. In a survival scenario, that is not an inconvenience. That is the mechanism by which people die from decisions they never realized they were making badly. Peanut butter is the most efficient single solution to this problem that you can store. 2 tablespoons deliver close to 200 calories and 16 grams of fat. A standard 16-ounce jar approaches a full day's caloric requirement from a container weighing less than 2 pounds. It requires no water, no heat, no flame, no electricity, and no light. It can be consumed in total darkness, in motion, in conditions where every other preparation step has become impossible. Beyond its nutritional function, peanut butter serves as an appetite bridge. After days of stress and monotony, the psychological drive to eat deteriorates. The body keeps burning fuel. The person stops refueling. Peanut butter is dense enough, familiar enough, and flexible enough to remain palatable when almost everything else has become psychologically unbearable to consume. For storage, sealed jars in a cool, dark location. Conventional peanut butter holds for 1 to 2 years. Avoid varieties where the first ingredients are hydrogenated oils or high fructose corn syrup. Rotate it into regular meals so the supply stays current and so you know exactly what you actually have. Number 4. Oats. Picture this scenario. The power has been out for 6 days. Your fuel reserves are running lower than you planned. Water is available, but every liter requires effort to source, carry, and purify. Every calorie you consume must be weighed against the resources it costs to prepare. Now picture trying to cook rice, or pasta, or dried beans. 3 separate cooking operations, each requiring sustained heat, precise water ratios, and significant time. Multiplied by 3 meals a day. Multiplied by however many people you are feeding. Multiplied across 2 weeks. The arithmetic of resource consumption in an emergency almost always destroys people who never ran those numbers before the disruption started. This is where oats become something more important than nutrition. They become a survival multiplier. Rolled oats require only hot water and a few minutes of resting time under normal circumstances. But here is the fact that changes the entire calculus. In a scenario of total infrastructure failure, no electricity, no gas, no functioning fuel source of any kind, oats can be cold soaked. Submerge them in cold water for 30 to 45 minutes. No fire, no fuel, no preparation equipment. The result is a fully functional meal. That single characteristic makes oats the only carbohydrate staple that remains completely operational in a worst-case scenario. Every other option on a standard emergency supply list fails when the last resource disappears. Oats do not. The nutritional profile compounds this advantage. Oats are a complex carbohydrate, meaning they digest slowly and produce a sustained, stable energy curve across 6 to 8 hours. When your eating schedule becomes irregular, which it will because emergencies do not respect mealtimes, the difference between a meal that holds your blood sugar stable across an extended gap and one that crashes you after 2 hours is not a comfort difference. It is a performance difference measured in the quality of decisions you make when it matters most. There is also a dimension of oats that almost no preparedness guide addresses because it is uncomfortable to discuss. Digestive disruption. Under sustained stress, with irregular meals, degraded sleep, unfamiliar food combinations, and elevated cortisol levels, the digestive system becomes unpredictable in ways that are physically painful and psychologically demoralizing. The soluble fiber in oats supports gut regularity even when everything else about your diet has shifted dramatically. That sounds minor in the abstract. By day 4 of a crisis, it is not minor at all. For storage, plain rolled oats or steel-cut oats only, never instant flavored packets. Those contain additives, have degraded nutritional value, and a significantly shorter shelf life. Plain oats sealed in airtight containers away from moisture and temperature fluctuations remain stable for 2 to 4 years. Add oxygen absorbers, and that window extends meaningfully further. Number 3, canned fish. Something happens to people around day 5 of a prolonged disruption that most emergency food guides never account for because it is invisible on the surface. They are still eating, they are still moving. From the outside, they look like they are functioning, but something has shifted in how they are processing reality. Decisions that should take 30 seconds drag into 20 minutes. Small problems produce emotional responses that are completely disproportionate to what is actually happening. The ability to plan forward, to think through a situation systematically, to maintain composure in the face of escalating pressure, all of it begins to erode in ways that look like stress, but are actually something far more specific and far more correctable. The nutritional driver behind that pattern is omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, the long-chain forms found in fatty fish. These compounds are not optional upgrades for optimal brain performance. They are fundamental structural requirements for how your brain regulates neurotransmitters, manages inflammation in the central nervous system, and maintains the synaptic connections that make clear, sustained thought possible. Your body cannot manufacture EPA and DHA on its own. They must come from food. And in a standard emergency supply built around rice, beans, bread, and crackers, they are almost entirely absent. The effects do not surface on day 1. But within 1 to 2 weeks of near zero omega-3 intake, under the physiological stress that a genuine crisis generates, the impact on cognitive clarity, mood stability, and stress tolerance becomes measurable and dangerous. You do not experience it as a deficiency. You experience it as a shorter fuse, cloudier thinking, difficulty holding focus across a complex problem, emotional reactions to situations you would ordinarily handle without friction. In a scenario where your judgment is the most critical survival tool you possess, that degradation is not an inconvenience. It is a structural threat to your survival. Canned sardines, salmon, and mackerel address this directly, completely, and with a simplicity that no other food can match. They require no refrigeration, no preparation, no water, no heat. Opening the can is the entire process. In conditions where every other preparation step carries a resource cost, that simplicity is a critical operational advantage. Sardines packed in water are particularly efficient. A single can delivers meaningful omega-3 content alongside complete high-quality protein, costs under $2 in most markets, and has a reliable shelf life of 3 to 5 years. The nutritional return per dollar is among the highest of any item in this entire system. For storage, no dented, swollen, or compromised cans under any circumstances. Water-packed or simple oil-packed varieties are more stable and more versatile than anything in heavily seasoned sauce. Store in a cool, dark location. Temperature fluctuation degrades canned contents faster than almost any other variable. Rotate consistently and use the oldest cans in regular meals. If you are still reading this, you already understand that most people are not. Drop a like, leave a comment below, and subscribe. You are building something most people will never build until it is already too late. Number 2, beans. There is a trap so elegantly constructed, so perfectly designed to produce false confidence, that it catches nearly everyone who has ever tried to prepare for a serious disruption. You count your calories. You reach a number that sounds like enough. You conclude you are prepared. That conclusion has one catastrophically missing variable, and it will destroy you quietly, systematically, and completely if you do not account for it before you need to. Calories measure energy. They say nothing about whether your body can rebuild damaged tissue, maintain muscle mass under physical stress, sustain immune function against the pathogens that thrive in exactly the chaotic conditions a crisis creates, or support the metabolic processes that keep your organs performing under prolonged physiological load. For all of that, you need protein, consistently, reliably, across the full duration of whatever you are enduring. Here is what protein deficiency actually looks like across 1 to 2 weeks, because it does not look the way most people imagine. It does not announce itself as visible muscle loss. That takes considerably longer. Instead, it presents as a progressive, insidious decline in what you are physically capable of doing. Tasks that should feel routine begin to feel exhausting. Recovery between physical efforts slows measurably. Minor injuries that a healthy body would close and seal in 2 days begin to linger. Your immune response becomes less aggressive, meaning ordinary bacterial exposure that you would normally neutralize starts to develop into actual illness. None of it is dramatic. All of it compounds. By day 10, you are a measurably diminished version of the person who entered day 1, and you are heading further in the wrong direction with each passing day. Beans are the single most calorie-efficient and cost-efficient solution to this problem in any long-term storage system. Lentils deserve particular attention. They cook in 20 to 30 minutes. They require no soaking. In an environment where every liter of water and every hour of fuel carries a real cost that diminishes your overall capacity, that matters enormously. They also carry one of the highest protein to calorie ratios of any plant food and remain shelf-stable for 5 or more years in properly sealed dry conditions. Now here's the part about beans and rice that fundamentally changes how you must think about this entire list. Most plant proteins are incomplete. They lack sufficient quantities of one or more of the 9 essential amino acids the human body cannot synthesize independently. Beans are deficient in methionine. Rice is deficient in lysine. Neither one in isolation provides a nutritionally complete protein source, but combined, their amino acid profiles interlock with near-perfect complementarity. Together, they produce a complete protein that the body can utilize with approximately the same efficiency as animal-based protein. This is not a modern nutritional theory. It is the biological architecture on which billions of people across dozens of distinct cultures maintained physical health for generations without refrigeration, without modern supplementation, and without nutritional science to tell them why it was working. For storage, dried beans significantly outperform canned for anything beyond short-term needs. A single pound of dried black beans holds roughly 1,600 calories and lasts 5 or more years in properly sealed storage. Canned beans cost more per serving, weigh considerably more per calorie, and have a shorter reliable shelf window. The trade-off is preparation time. Most varieties require overnight soaking plus extended cooking. Plan for that specifically. If water is severely constrained, prioritize lentils. Store in airtight food-grade containers in a dark, dry location. Add oxygen absorbers for anything intended for storage beyond 1 year. Beans are also among the most filling foods per calorie that exist in any storage system. The combination of fiber and protein produces a prolonged satiety that reduces the psychological burden of food scarcity. When you are not in a constant state of hunger-driven anxiety, you have measurably more mental bandwidth for every other problem demanding your attention. In a crisis, that is not a comfort consideration, it is a survival variable. Number 1. Rice. Everything else on this list is architecture. Every other item addresses a specific critical function: cognitive fat, logistical efficiency, omega-3 protection, complete protein, flavor preservation, electrolyte balance, antimicrobial properties. Each one is irreplaceable within its role, but none of it matters even slightly if this one foundational element is missing. When caloric intake drops below what basic metabolic function requires, the human body enters a catabolic state. It begins cannibalizing muscle tissue for fuel. Organ efficiency decreases, immune function deteriorates, cognitive performance drops, then crashes. And this does not unfold across weeks. It begins within days. The sophisticated nutritional architecture of everything else on this list becomes functionally irrelevant when the caloric foundation underneath it collapses. Fat cannot be efficiently metabolized in a severe caloric deficit. Protein cannot be directed toward tissue repair when the body has reclassified it as emergency fuel. The entire system depends on this one condition holding. White rice is that condition. It is not nutritionally complete. It is not high in protein. It is not rich in fat. Its micronutrient profile is modest at best. None of that is remotely the point. White rice is pure, stable, accessible caloric energy at a cost and storage efficiency that almost nothing else in existence can match. 1 cup of dry white rice produces approximately 675 calories when cooked. A 50-pound bag, costing between $25 and $40, depending on your location and market conditions, contains enough calories to sustain 1 adult at maintenance level for roughly 2 months. 2 months of caloric coverage in a single bag that costs less than a restaurant meal. And here is the fact that separates white rice from every other staple on this list by a margin that should genuinely frighten you when you consider how few people take it seriously. Properly stored white rice can remain fully edible and nutritionally intact for 25 to 30 years. Not months, not a few years, decades. This is documented across multiple long-term food science studies conducted by major research institutions. A 25-year shelf life means that rice you store today will still be viable nutrition for someone in 2050. Brown rice does not share this property. The bran layer that improves its nutritional profile also contains oils that oxidize over time, degrading the rice into inedibility. In optimal conditions, brown rice remains reliable for only 6 to 12 months. For any serious long-term preparation scenario, white rice is the only rational choice. The most common storage mistake, made by a shocking proportion of people who have otherwise prepared thoughtfully, is leaving rice in its original retail packaging. Standard retail bags are not airtight. They offer no protection against moisture infiltration, insect infestation, or oxygen-driven degradation. All 3 of these factors accelerate the deterioration of stored rice dramatically. Transfer everything to food-grade sealed containers. Add oxygen absorbers for anything you intend to keep beyond 1 year. Store it in the coolest, driest location in your home. A basement over a kitchen pantry, an interior closet over a garage that experiences temperature swings with the seasons. Consider this documented reality. During the period of food insecurity that struck the United States in the early 2000s, over 40 million Americans faced genuine uncertainty about consistent access to food. Not in a developing nation under armed conflict, in the wealthiest country on earth, under the pressure of supply chain disruption and sustained inflation. The behavioral pattern that followed was consistent and remarkably revealing across every region affected. People did not search for nutritionally sophisticated emergency food. They stripped the most calorie-dense, affordable, familiar staples from store shelves. Rice experienced localized shortage conditions in multiple markets before distribution chains restabilized. The most fundamental things became the most scarce and the most valuable simultaneously. That pattern repeats. History has demonstrated it across dozens of crisis events spanning multiple countries and multiple centuries. And when it repeats, the window to act, to simply walk into a store and buy what you need, closes faster than the warning arrives. The architecture of survival, step back and look at what these 7 items represent together. The human body under sustained stress operates on a hierarchy so clear and unforgiving that it allows almost no improvisation. Calories come first. Without a baseline energy supply, every other system begins failing within days. Rice covers this foundation. Protein comes second. Without consistent protein intake, physical function erodes progressively and invisibly. Beans cover this, and combined with rice, they form a complete protein source that the body can use as efficiently as animal-based nutrition. Healthy fats come third. Without them, the brain and nervous system begin degrading in ways that compromise the very judgment you need to navigate everything else. Peanut butter covers dietary fat broadly. Canned fish covers the specific omega-3 gap that every other food on this list leaves entirely open. Logistical sustainability comes fourth. Without resource-efficient food preparation, the rest of the system burns through fuel, water, and energy faster than it can be sustained. Oats solve this by remaining fully functional even when all other preparation methods have failed. Micronutrient and functional support comes fifth. Without electrolyte balance and immune reinforcement, secondary failures, illness, physical breakdown, wound infection, compound the primary crisis. Salt and honey address these dimensions with a shelf stability that almost no other food can match. Each item has a specific, non-interchangeable role. Remove any single component and the structure fails somewhere specific at some point in time in a way that the remaining components cannot compensate for. This is not a list of foods that happen to be healthy. This is a nutritional architecture designed around how the human body actually collapses under sustained pressure. Implementation, the numbers that matter. A minimum of 25 pounds of white rice per person, stored in sealed food-grade containers with oxygen absorbers, in the coolest and driest location available. This is not a suggestion. This is the foundation. At least 10 pounds of dried beans per person, with lentils prioritized for their no-soak, fast-cook advantage, and black or kidney beans used for caloric volume. Stored in airtight containers in cool, dark conditions. Enough canned sardines, salmon, or mackerel for one serving every 2 to 3 days per person. Water-packed or simple oil-packed, rotated continuously so the supply remains within its optimal window. This is the most commonly neglected item on the entire list, and it protects the one thing that everything else depends on: your ability to think clearly and make good decisions under pressure. Plain rolled oats in bulk, sealed containers, enough for at least 1 meal per day per person. This is the lowest cost per calorie item on this entire list, and the only carbohydrate staple that remains fully functional without any heat or fuel. Airtight storage, away from moisture. Enough peanut butter for 1 to 2 tablespoons per person per day, rotated into regular meals so the supply stays current. Sealed jars, cool and dark storage, away from direct sunlight. Enough raw honey for a minimum of 1 tablespoon per person per day, sealed in glass jars, stored away from light and temperature variation. Indefinite shelf life when properly sealed and kept dry. A minimum of 5 pounds of non-iodized pure salt per person, stored in sealed waterproof containers. This is the cheapest and heaviest neglected item in any emergency supply. And it is the one that allows everything else to remain edible and your body to remain functional under physical stress. The final thing most people will never admit here is what the preparation guides leave out because it is uncomfortable and it does not fit neatly into a list. There is a psychological cost to being unprepared that begins operating long before any actual crisis arrives. The low-grade background anxiety of knowing you are not ready, that if something went wrong tomorrow you would be scrambling, consumes cognitive bandwidth. It degrades decision quality. It creates a kind of chronic stress that compounds over time in ways that are difficult to isolate or measure, but absolutely real in their effect. The person who enters a disruption having already resolved the food variable thinks more clearly, manages more steadily, makes better decisions across the duration of the crisis than the person who is simultaneously trying to solve the food problem, the water problem, the safety problem, and every other problem that a serious disruption generates all at once. Preparation is not only about what you eat when things fall apart, it is about what you no longer have to worry about when everything around you becomes uncertain. The reduction in anxiety is not a soft benefit. It is a hard performance advantage that shows up in the quality of decisions you make, when the quality of your decisions is the most important variable in whether you and the people around you come through intact. Most people who encounter this information will agree with it completely. They will find it compelling and thorough and rational. And then they will close the tab and not act on it, because the situation feels manageable today, and the gap between knowing and doing is the most lethal distance in any kind of preparation. The ones who actually benefit are the ones who act while the choice is still entirely theirs to make. By the time you recognize with certainty that you needed this system in place, the moment to build it will almost certainly have already passed. You do not fail because the situation is too severe. You fail because the preparation was built around the feeling of being ready, rather than the mechanics of actually being ready. Now you know the difference. Now you know exactly what the mechanics look like. The only remaining question is what you do with that knowledge before tomorrow becomes the day it mattered. One last thing. If this changed the way you think about what preparation actually means, hit like, drop a comment, telling me which items surprised you most, and subscribe. The next breakdown might be the one that fills the last gap in your system. Out of these 7, which one were you most certain you already had covered? And were you actually right?